I remember the day I left my childhood home like it was yesterday. Not because of the bags packed or the last look at my parents' faces, but because of the crushing weight of their words echoing in my mind. You're wasting your life. That's a joke. You're an embarrassment. They didn't say it outright every day, but I felt it in every dismissive glance, every smirk, every laugh at my ridiculous dream of transforming urban soils with worms. See, I wasn't born into a family that celebrated ambition. At least, not mine. My father was a factory worker, my mother a school secretary. They wanted stability, a real career, something respectable. When I told them I wanted to be a soil scientist, their eyes rolled. When I explained my vision, using worm farming to heal degraded city landscapes, they looked at me like I'd lost my mind. That's garbage work, my father snorted, shaking his head. You'll end up cleaning toilets for the rest of your life, boy. I was mocked relentlessly. Friends laughed behind my back. Colleagues dismissed my ideas as naive, and my own family told me repeatedly that I was chasing a fool's dream. I knew I'd face rejection. What I didn't expect was how deeply it would cut. I was told I'd fail, that I'd be an embarrassment, just another oddball failing at life. But deep down, I believed in what I was doing. I knew soils mattered, more than most people realized. I studied tirelessly, but my breakthrough came after I was betrayed. They stole my research, claimed the credit for a revolutionary soil regeneration technique, and I was publicly fired. The industry ridiculed me, calling me a nobody. That was the final blow. I could have crumbled, but I didn't. Instead, I turned inward, into the dirt, literally. I began to experiment with vermiculture, using worms to convert waste into rich compost. Cities produce mountains of garbage, and I saw an opportunity to turn that trash into treasure. I quietly built my small urban farms, working nights, facing ridicule from academics who sneered at garbage work, and from industry insiders who said worms couldn't fix anything. But I knew better. I knew that soil was alive and that life could be restored. Years passed. I worked tirelessly, building prototypes, gaining small local wins, then bigger communities. I turned vacant lots into lush gardens, degraded parks into thriving ecosystems. People started noticing, then communities, then cities. My work spread, and suddenly I wasn't just some worm farmer. I was a pioneer in ecological restoration. I was invited to conferences, featured in articles, and eventually I won awards. But the real triumph was the land I healed and the lives I touched. And then came the day I returned home. I was invited back, not just as a guest, but as a hero. The same streets where I'd once been mocked, where my name had been a punchline, became a backdrop for the most powerful moment of my life. I pulled up to my parents' house that afternoon. Their faces looked older, the lines etched deeper by time and doubt. My mother opened the door, eyes wide, her mouth trembling. My father stood behind her, arms crossed, trying to look stern, but unable to hide the flicker of curiosity. I smiled, stepping inside, carrying a small bag of soil. I didn't need to say much. I simply gestured to the backyard, now transformed into a vibrant green oasis. Remember how you said this was garbage work? Well, I've become quite good at it. With a nod, I led them outside. In the backyard, the ground was alive. Rich, dark soil, teeming with worms, flourishing plants, bees buzzing in the fruit trees I'd planted. It was a stark contrast to the barren, cracked earth they remembered. I turned to my parents, eyes glistening. This is what I've been working on. Restoring the soil, restoring hope. From city waste to thriving ecosystems, I've proved that even the most overlooked life, worms, microbes, can rebuild what's been lost. My father's jaw tightened, but his eyes betrayed a flicker of pride. My mother's hands trembled as she reached out to touch the lush earth. You did all this yourself? Not just me, I said softly. This was always in the soil. I just helped it remember who it was. Suddenly, my sister burst out of the house, clutching her phone. She had been filming. When she played back the footage, I saw my parents' faces as they watched the bustling life in the garden, an ecosystem I built from scraps of city waste, something they'd once ridiculed as pointless garbage work. That moment was everything. They saw what I had become, what I had built, something real, something lasting. And I saw their faces, once filled with skepticism, now filled with a mix of awe, regret, and something I hadn't seen in them before, understanding. I turned to them and said, "You told me I'd fail. You told me I was wasting my life. But I followed my passion. And I proved that even the smallest, most overlooked creatures, worms, could change the world. It's never too late to see what's possible, especially when you stop dismissing what you don't understand." The silence that followed wasn't just the quiet of realization. It was the weight of years of doubt finally lifting. My parents didn't need to say a word. Their eyes said everything. As I left that evening, I felt lighter than I ever had. I realized that success isn't just about the accolades or the recognition. It's about transforming doubt into belief, failure into triumph, and ignorance into understanding. My journey taught me one thing. The most profound growth begins in the dirt. If we nurture what's undervalued, what's dismissed as worthless, we can unlock extraordinary potential, not just in the soil, but in ourselves. And as I drove away, I knew that I had finally come home, not just to my family, but to the truth of who I was meant to be. And that, above all, is what matters.